Good afternoon. This is me, my fiancée Amy. In February, when I decided that I was going to propose to her at a mountaintop in India, I pictured a perfect moment with clear blue skies and dramatic views of the Himalayas. What I got was rain, biblical rain. Let's go back to the hotel, she said, as we ran for shelter before I could pop the question. Just a quick look at the amazing views I pleaded, despite the downpour. No chance, she replied. I'm going. To compound my misery, the day before would have been, when I should have popped the question, was the idyllic one, the one that I had dreamed of. But okay, plan B. I'm booking a private dining room in the hotel that evening. Great backup option. Or it would have been, except that we were both suffering badly from over-adventurous street food the night before. In true British style, however, we kept calm and we carried on. And that evening, I popped the question to one final twist. In a moment of panic the day before leaving, I had the ring resized, and it was now 3 sizes too big and more closely resembled a bracelet. You'll be pleased to know that the ending is a happy one, and despite the torrential rain and aborted plans, she said yes. Thank you. She said yes because even though the plan fell apart, the intention did not. I've been thinking about that ever since February, about how we often overcomplicate things, especially when it comes to the climate. We chase solutions that are unique, glamorous and dramatic, when often the most meaningful solutions are the simplest ones and are already there for us. And that brings me to Biochar. I'm Sam Grady and I'm the Business Development Director of the British Biochar producer called A Healthier Earth. A Healthier Earth is developing the UK's largest biochar operation for the purposes of carbon capture. We believe that biochar can make a meaningful impact today and have successfully raised private equity investment to do it at scale. By 2027, we will be producing 10,000 tonnes of biochar and 17,000 carbon credits each year. This is what we consider minimum viable scale for institutional investment into CDR. I'm here at COP to help. I'm not here to add more noise to the climate conversation. I want to make things clear, practical and grounded. Because the technology, the data and the projects, they're real. What's missing isn't innovation, it's understanding. We need to start looking at biochar through the right lens. So I'm going to walk you through 3 perspectives, 3 answers to the same question. What is biochar? First, from the climate perspective, how it removes carbon at scale and why it's leading every other CDR pathway today. Then from the user perspective, the farmer, the horticulturalist, the materials engineer, to show how biochar improves the systems that we rely on every day. And finally, from the investor's perspective, because scaling isn't just about chemistry or soil. It's about finance, it's about risk management, and about treating biochar as infrastructure. Together, those 3 views tell a simple story, that biochar is here, it's simple, and it's the foundation of carbon removal. Before we look at those 3 perspectives, let's start with the basics. This is biochar. It's a black, porous, carbon-rich material made by heating biomass, wood residues, crop residues and organic waste in a low-oxygen environment. We call that pyrolysis. Roughly half of the carbon in the biomass that you're holding stays locked up in a stable form, carbon that would otherwise have gone back into the atmosphere. We've effectively taken part of the biological carbon cycle and stretched it out from years to centuries. That's what makes biochar a true carbon removal technology. It doesn't just avoid emissions, it removes and stores carbon away from the atmosphere. What's more, the process gives us incredibly useful byproducts. Carbon neutral heat, sometimes bio-oil, and maybe one day a clean syngas. Most importantly though, the biochar itself. Now, depending on who you ask, you'll get 3 different answers to the same question. What is biochar? A climate scientist sees tons of CO2 removed. A farmer sees healthier soils, and an investor sees a stable asset class. And guess what? They're all right. Just looking at different sides of the same story. So let's start with the climate lens, because that's where biochar's contribution is already far bigger than most people realise. But just how big is it? Well, biochar leads today's CDR field comfortably. Around 86% of all new durable carbon removal credits issued in 2024 came from biochar projects. Biochar projects are not theoretical like some pathways, they are operational now. There are biochar projects live on all of the world's major continents. These projects deliver not just great carbon removal, but are integrating into the daily lives of our communities. And what's more, the potential is being recognised, at least by some. The global biochar market is expected to triple to more than $2 billion by 2032. And by raising awareness, we can accelerate that influx of critical capital even further. But what drives confidence for this capital to flow? Well, there is proven science behind biochar-based sequestration, and it delivers scientifically verified permanence. We know that pyrolysis stables about 50% of the carbon in any given biomass. We know that storage lasts 100 to 300 years, sometimes longer, meeting permanence thresholds in emerging standards. And we can verify that sequestration under methodologies like Puro.Earth, Carbon Standards International, and others who deploy digital MRV to track every ton of feedstock to soil. Another area that biochar shows its efficacy is in its cost to those wishing to purchase sequestration. Biochar credit prices range from $130 to $200 per tonne of CO2 removed. If we compare that to other leading pathways, like BECCS at $380 a tonne and DAC at more than $500 a tonne, we find it to be the most cost-effective, scalable form of durable carbon removal available today. But don't just take my word for it. We have market proof. There are multiple examples of big deals and sophisticated purchasers of carbon removals. For example, Carbon Future to Swiss Group, 70,000 tonnes of CO2 credits over 7 years. Biochar to Google, 100,000 tonnes of CO2 credits by 2030. And the biggest of all of them, Examad Green to Microsoft, 1.24 million carbon removal credits over the next 10 years. These aren't pilot scale projects. They're commercial contracts with household name buyers. So from a climate standpoint, biochar is already doing the heavy lifting. Durable, verifiable, and affordable carbon removal right now. But carbon removal doesn't happen just in the atmosphere. It happens when somebody actually uses the biochar. So let's look at it from that perspective. Because this is what I love most about biochar. It's carbon removal with benefits. Biochar is a practical material, not just a climate tool. It's porous, lightweight, and has an absorptive carbon matrix, which can act like a sponge or a filter. It goes into things: agriculture, horticulture, building materials. And these benefits are critical as carbon removal happens not in its creation, but in its use. In agriculture, biochar improves water retention, nutrient availability, and soil structure. It cuts fertilizer needs, reduces nutrient runoff, and nitrous oxide emissions. Each tonne of biochar knocks away between 2 and 2.4 tonnes of CO2 equivalents, while improving crop yields and plant health. It's a soil amendment with free carbon removal. But what about in horticulture? At A Healthier Earth, we have been working to include biochar and its co-benefits in living urban systems. We have partnered with horticulture company Veritopia to introduce biochar-based substrates into what will become one of the world's largest living walls. 7,000 metres squared of urban greening in central London that decreases air pollution and sequesters CO2. But what's most exciting about this project is that the inclusion of biochar will reduce irrigation needs of that installation by 60%. This means that we can save water, power that would have been used for pumping, and we can also minimise the physical irrigation infrastructure for that installation. All of this demonstrates biochar as part of the urban infrastructure that we rely on every day. Living walls that cool our cities and store carbon in the process. But what about in the buildings themselves? Well, biochar has a role in enhancing and decarbonising some of our most used buildings. There are already prominent applications in cement, concrete wall panelling and insulation, also asphalt. Its inclusion can reduce embodied carbon by more than 20% in some mixes, while also increasing durability and fire resistance. Biochar turns the built environment into long-term carbon store. It does this while also improving the performance of our physical infrastructure. From farms to facades, biochar improves the systems we rely on every single day, all while sequestering carbon for generations. So, if it works for the climate and it works for the users, what's left? What's left is how we finance its creation. A small disclosure to start. My biochar project is funded by private equity investment. That type of investor has made me think very differently about what a biochar project, and indeed any CDR project, really is. I've learned that biochar is an infrastructure investment. It's capex heavy and it generates steady revenues after it's built. That's the classic infrastructure profile. A pyrolysis facility is highly comparable to, say, a waste-to-energy plant or district heating assets. Assets that are valued by society and loved by investors. Infrastructure investors like things that are predictable, regulated, and to be honest, slightly dull. They want big, boring biochar. Why boring? Because boring means bankable. Contracts need firm volumes, long-term offtakes, 7 to 10 years at a minimum, and largely enforceable contractual terms. There must be multiple revenue streams to projects. Biochar has all of this. We can sell the credits, we can sell the physical biochar, and we can sell excess energy from the pyrolysis process. We can ensure the cash flows from the projects and contract feedstocks for years in advance to de-risk the delivery. And now we have the model, we can rinse and repeat, cutting due diligence costs and increasing the speed of capital into this market. Infrastructure investors don't need excitement, they need low risk and repetitive. So that's the boring, but what about the big? In my experience, projects start to attract institutional capital when they get above 25 million in capex. They need to be delivered quickly, have predictable operating costs, and generate immediate cash flows. I'm here to tell you that this is all possible, all achievable with today's technologies. It sounds expensive, but we have proven that margins can be driven by automation, co-location, and feedstock supply, and/or off-takers, and even by valorizing our waste heat. These facilities can be modeled, rated, and financed like any other infrastructure investment. If we can get into this mindset, then capital will flow, and we will truly unlock the potential, the scale that is so apparent. So, as I wrap up, I want to come back to my aborted proposal attempt on the mountaintop in India. Because the truth is that things rarely go to plan in life, and that is certainly true of the climate. We must take our opportunities with both hands when they are presented to us. It is true that biochar won't give us cinematic moments or glossy headlines. It won't arrive with fanfare. But much like that imperfect proposal, it works, even when the circumstances don't feel ideal. And if we choose to back solutions that are simple, reliable, and grounded, then we will get to say yes to a more stable climate. Thank you. Yeah, happy to take the question.
So when you're talking about the plant, like how long is the lifetime, and how long does it take around to like break even?
So the question was, how long is the life cycle of a plant, a pyrolysis facility, and how long will it take the project to break even? Well, so that really depends. There's lots of types of biochar projects, from artisanal to what we would call institutional grade for investors. So I'm talking about the institutional grade. So typical lifestyle needs to match what an infrastructure investor would want to see. So it needs to be a minimum of 25 years. You'd ideally target 50 with a strong maintenance plan. And in order to pay back that capex, you want to be hitting something like a 7 to 10 year time horizon. Any other questions? Another one from the same lady. Thank you, Beatrice.
And how do you deal with the farmers? Like to talk to them and present the like advantages of biochar because it's something new and people a lot of times are like scared of the new.
Yeah, so the question is, how do we engage with farmers who we need to use this biochar, right? So if we don't put biochar in, so we've got to put it into the soil. That's how we get our carbon credits or into building materials. But it would be such a shame if biochar's co-benefits weren't unlocked in a meaningful way. And one of the most meaningful ways, probably the most meaningful way, is in soil. I'll be honest, farmers, particularly in the UK, are a difficult market to access. They have generational supply chains, they're very risk averse for obvious reasons because their margins are so tight. So what you need to do is present a story of no change. So you need to showcase biochar as a simple switch from their traditional fertilizer mixes that will give them yield enhancements without having to do anything different. I think what's most important is that biochar-based soil amendments work with existing machinery, and they come at a price point that farmers are used to paying, and also they come through traditional delivery means, so suppliers of agricultural products, not from new suppliers like a Healthy Earth who aren't recognised by the generational relationships in that market.
Thanks, super interesting. So are you essentially putting the biochar in, are you mixing it in with fertilizer, or is it just a standalone additive that you're selling separately from fertilizer?
That's a great question. So we've actually done both. Biochar is the foundation of really great quality agricultural soils. In itself, it can have improvements. So we, in particular, have used biochar, raw biochar in forestry. When we planted tree saplings, we planted 70,000 last year in a big estate in the centre of the UK. We used raw biochar, and we've seen improvements in survival rates from just above 30% year on year to nearly 90% on some of our plants where drought is particularly prevalent. So it's great at holding moisture in the soil. If we want to really enhance yields in an agricultural setting, then we want to be blending the biochar with fertilizer, with mycorrhizal bacteria, and most importantly, giving that mix time to mature, time for the microbial life to develop, and to turn into something really rich and powerful when it's applied to the agricultural soils.
Thanks. And does the biochar that you apply to a field run out? I mean, or can you reapply biochar to the same field multiple years?
It's a really good question. There's mixed literature on this, but the answer is that you can do both. So biochar, the carbon in said biochar stays stable for 300 plus years, so the carbon will always be there, and the biochar will be the same. It depends on the application. So if you want to use biochar in a filtration-based application, then the pores of that biochar will eventually become saturated with heavy metals or nutrients that it's holding. In an agricultural setting where there are plants utilising the nutrients, then that biochar will continue to regenerate and re-give those nutrients in a bioavailable form to the plants around them. However, there is the opportunity to reapply, which means, again, more sequestration, richer, more fertile soils as the years go on and as those fields and those agricultural settings mature. Can't see any more questions in the audience, so I think I'll wrap up there. So that's been Biochar 101. Thank you very much.